So for relationships to get better in the West, in America, globally, women have to become better people. I said it. They have to become better people than what they are. Because not all women, I make an exception for the 10% women, but the majority of women today have been raised in a female-centered, gynocentric environment where they've been pandered to, and that creates monsters, selfish, entitled monsters. What's missing from every conversation is men's needs, men's desires, what men want. And we're talking about relationships after the honeymoon phase has passed. For men to be in relationship and not be out here on the Serengeti with a peaceful life, you have to offer them something better than peace. And you have to add to that peace, at least add to the peace that they have. You have to offer them peace, some happiness, and put a smile on their face. Otherwise, they'd rather be out here in the wild with a peaceful life, enjoying freedom, living life on their own terms. As I'm here this morning, about to get to the gym, drinking my Wawa coffee, enjoying peace and freedom, living life. Because what happens inevitably now, especially in it's 2026, the internet gives men a glimpse inside the reality of relationships. Many men experience relationships, they've gone through things, they've had their ups and downs, and other men are now sharing experiences. You see the guy who couldn't even sleep in his damn car, he tried to come home from work. Insufferable. And that's what you see a lot of broken men walking around with their wives. Their balls have been clipped, put in the jars, kept behind the peas and rice. They've been broken. They have too much invested. They're just tolerating her at this point because the relationship has shifted completely. His needs don't even matter anymore. He's just like a walking droid. Pay these bills, keep this woman quiet. And he's on an emotional roller coaster of her emotions and crap. Not the way it was designed in life. Don't worry, he has some accountability as well. But this is what relationships have become. Modern relationships. All centered around her and her emotions. Nothing in it for you other than servitude. You basically, for most men, it's a slave. And going back to what the internet has provided, it's provided men with a reality check when you get complacent in your single life. And that's why couples therapy is very therapeutic for men. 20 minutes a week, you'll be born again, free, unlonely. You'll be out here hugging and kissing trees. Be running out here you'll be running out here naked in the snow after watching about 10 minutes of that shit. Insufferable. 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 And I think that's what the majority of men see in the modern relationship. I'm not talking about the 10% women. Again, a peaceful life is not anti-relationship. I'm pro-relationship. I'm just anti-torture. And I think that's the problem that we have. It's just like in China. Remember they had their one-child policy? And everybody that one child became a spoiled monster. That's what happens in a gynocracy, in a gynocentric environment where women are pandered to, their asses are kissed because they spend money. You're going to create monsters. Look at every type of, who makes the most money on these YouTube, in these ready relationship space? The panda bears. The guys that are pandering to women and their emotion, blame men, blame men for everything. No accountability for these women. So what is the incentive to change? Plus, at the end of the rainbow, there's always a jellyback simp. There's no incentive to be anything different or offer any other value. So what do men do? They go and they learn certain strategies. They adapt. They enjoy a certain small portion of women in terms of taking small samples, leaving that whole package behind. Some of them, I'm not approving or disapproving of it. The ones that find the 10% women that actually bring value into the man's life, they go with those women. But for majority of men, they're like, eh. And what we don't talk about also is this epidemic of post-nut clarity depression, where guys go in it with the right intentions, they sample her, and then the crazy comes out. Because you're dealing with somebody that's developed themselves into a social media narcissist or something else. You know, like they're literally take great pleasure in just trying to get men to be an emotional tampon, which is we're logical creatures. We don't operate like that. We are doers. We are creators. We're problem solvers. We're not designed to be sitting around talking about feelings all day long that they cast as emotional intelligence. Really, men's thing is emotional discipline. Emotional intelligence is for women, but they try to bring it to you because in their mind, the panda bears and all the relationship specialists is telling them that you're supposed to be their emotional tampon. Because again, I mean, I think Dr. Ryan Teraband addressed it. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about men. That's what they're talking. That's all these relationship therapists, bullshit, road crap with the profit motive. They're talking about this is what men's supposed to be. And all these guys teaching men how to be better for women that are worse. You goofies. Why not say, I understand there's a certain level of squared awayness that a man should have, but we still neglect the other part, which is the other half. What type of better have they become? Do the average woman really qualify for the average man anymore, considering the mental health crisis that he has to deal with, considering the amount of trauma, baggage from the sexual revolution that he has to deal with? You know, what is he going to get? What exactly is he going to experience inside this relationship? It's certainly not going to be any joy. Forget about sex in the long term. Forget about any type of pleasures or any type of happiness. It's just going to be a continual cycle of him doing 1,000% of the work, riding on the roller coaster of her emotions, which is what you see in the typical average modern day relationship. So the man just becomes an emotional, financial, slave with tremendous amount of accountability for not living up to a certain amount of standards or performing or providing or doing certain things. So again, the return of an investment becomes very low for men. The incentives become gone. It is about incentives. And once those incentives are gone, then what are the men going to do? They're going to take on risk mitigation. They're going to be more calculated. They're going to be more cautious because they can see now the internet provides them a great insight into the distance. Not the honeymoon phase, not that first year 2 or 3. They can see year 10. They can see year 20. The great divorce are big. Dudes aren't even safe after year 20 and 30. I've seen divorces that have happened almost 40 years. That's what the internet does. The internet creates this environment where, FOMO or fear of missing out or, you see a lot of sad people with happy pictures. And now that life is there's all kinds of distractions and your life is being compared to other people's lives who are not even living in their truth. And that creates envy. That creates all kinds of things. Voices are coming in, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Distractions. It takes one hell of a woman with emotional discipline to ignore all of her friends, to ignore certain individuals around her, family, friends, single friends, the voices on the internet. Because everything in this society talks about what men's supposed to be doing, what men should be, what are men supposed to be. Nothing about what women should really be and what they need to do to be in a relationship with a man long term. Men's needs, men's want. Men do have needs or wants or desires that if they're not fulfilled, that man probably is not going to function at his peak optimally. But that's the conversation that's not being had, because it doesn't matter about your needs. They don't care. They care that women spend money. So it becomes a lose-lose investment for men. And men that are logical, that are masculine. They're very calculated. It's risk mitigation. It's making your brain is in control of your decision making, not your phallus. And that's why a lot of the relationship situations are suffering, because all men hear about is what they need to be doing and how they need to be better for women that have gotten worse, with the exception of the 10% women. Ladies, I do see you. That's never going to work. You can't ask somebody to become better for worse. Could you imagine that? That's not going to work. And like I said, most of these dudes will become tree huggers if they take a small sample of that couple's therapy twice a week. And they will understand, and they'll generate a good appreciation for the life they have. There's no solutions. There's only trade-off. And I talk about it as adaptation on this channel. If you find a 10% woman, snatch her up. Again, I'm not anti-relationship. Good luck, though, finding that. And this delusional, think about it for a second. You don't think other men are looking for that 10% woman? I'm talking about the woman that can stick around beyond pre-owned. She can survive post-nut clarity. Many men are. They would have took her. They would have snatched it up already. So now you have to navigate the crazies. And that's the options that men have. You have to this one is too crazy. That one, nah, that one's, nah. Sex is good with that one, but nah, that one got, histories of domestics or some crazy shit, or she threw a brick through her last boyfriend's car. Nah, that's not gonna work. This one's got narcissistic tendencies. She's delusional and she's crazy. You got men versus insanity is a new reality for most men living in the West and globally. I see it in Asia. I see it in other places as well. Is the reality that's created by social media in the modern environment. Men have to adapt, adjust, navigate it accordingly. Again, this channel doesn't sell fantasy. It sells reality. There's choices that men have to make. There's no solution. You got to make a choice. You can be as masculine as you want. If the environment is breeding poison, it is what it is. Masculinity is not going to, it's not enough to get you through this toxic wasteland. You need knowledge. You need information. You need to be able to navigate the realities of this world. And you have to adapt to what the world offers today. Not living your fantasy or feelings or your desires or your idealism. How's that going to save you when it's on the ground? This is where life happens in reality, not some theory, some religious theory, some religious practice or whatever else. Life happens in reality. Human behavior is real, and that's what men have to adapt to. Navigate the real, because there's real consequences for not living that type of way. So anyhow, I got to hit the gym. Peace and blessings to you guys. Enjoy your Friday. Make sure you hit the like button. I'm out.